Greetings everyone out there. Here it is, the build that you have been waiting for. It's the return of the Condemn Crusader. We knew this build back in Seasons 1 and part of Season 2. I guess all of Season 2, it was just a very short season. But Condemn used to rule the roost. There used to be those debates that you would have with your friends back in the day. Is Condemn better or is Stampede better? And now of course we all know Invokers is sweeping the Crusader boards by storm, but we still need builds that help us farm quickly, and so I'm going to give you a guide today on how to speed farm T10 Rifts with the new and improved Condemn Crusader. Let's hop into some gameplay footage while we talk about this. So you can see here I've got some pre-recorded video from my stream. I'm going to go ahead and do some Condemn Crusadering inside of Torment 10 Rifts, and the whole idea is that you just need to constantly keep moving. Obviously one of the builds you've probably seen and have seen popularized in this season 5 so far is the crazy fire wizard, Firebirds wizard that Quinn put together. That thing farms T10 unbelievably quickly, and so this doesn't do that, but the upside is that you actually get to farm on the class you want to play. I know that Crusader is a very popular class this season, and there are some builds like the Legacy of Nightmares Bombardment build, of course. You can turn that into a speed farm version inside of Torment 10 Rifts as well. But it, I don't know. If you just want that nostalgia to come back from Seasons 1 and 2 to really just play Condemn, give a con a place in the meta right now because it really isn't present at all. For other reasons that we could potentially get into in another video. Here it is. So you can see as I go around here, the whole gist of it is to keep moving. You're using the horse to make sure that you're closing any distances where there aren't monsters, but for the most part you're just really putting yourself right in the middle of nice packs of stuff, and then you're AoEing it down with Condemn, which hits pretty much everything on the screen with the synergy between Blade of Prophecy and Frighter's Wrath that allows you to spam it out without any sort of hesitation. There are a couple of things that we'll talk about when we get into the gear, but one of the things that you'll probably notice here as well too is that there's a lot of gold dropping and we're picking all of it up. One of the things that I really like about this build is while it also helps us speed farm T10 Rifts, which you're going to need to do to just get the amount of keys that you'll need for going to GRs, since we really want ton of gem levels to augment our gear with, to just have in our gear, of course, when we're pushing our different builds and whatnot. You're going to need to be in GRs a lot, so you're going to need a lot of GR keys. So you need fast speed farming builds for T10. This is one that I'm enjoying and using the most this season. But also, because we need to also empower these Greater Rifts because of a gold sync now that's in there called Empowering Greater Rifts, where you can pay a certain fee and it scales up the higher into a Greater Rift you are. So the fee for empowering a Greater Rift 60, for instance, costs quite a bit more than it would cost for a Greater Rift 15 or 20 or whatever have you. So it gets pricey, but as you go up you want to empower your Greater Rifts too, just for those extra chances that, if you're getting to the point where it's 1% rolls for you, well, here's 4 chances instead of 3 for every Greater Rift that you're running. It just helps with efficiency through the season. If you're going to be playing a lot, then maybe it matters a little bit less, but also you're going to be sitting on stacks and stacks of gold just from doing GRs in general, so you might as well empower them. And this just gives us a little bit more way to farm that gold up. But there's also another hidden utility in there because we utilize the gold wrap, which gives us an insane amount of defense as we continue to move through all the different rifts, basically making defense on your gear and just generally a thing that you would potentially think about and consider essentially null and void. You really don't need nearly any defense, although of course since we're playing hardcore, personally we want a little bit of defense just for that safety, because there are some sketchy times in here where you can run into some tough stuff if gold hasn't dropped in a while. If you zone into a new area and there are elites right at the door, that's certainly something to look out for. So there are definitely some situations to be careful of. You also see against the Rift Guardian too, sometimes if it's just you one-on-one with the Rift Guardian, your gold wrap buff will run out, and so they start doing some crazy damage to you if you don't have just a requisite level of toughness. And that's also why we still keep our Indestructible passive on to cheat death, just because it would suck to die. In softcore, obviously, you can go a little bit more YOLO. But you'll see here, we're coming up against the Rift Guardian any moment now. And what's nice in patch 2.4 actually is that Rift Guardians will teleport to you for the most part. Some of them don't for some reason, But you obviously know that Condemn works a lot better in AoE and kind of has its weaknesses in single target. Well, if you can get a Rift Guardian surrounded by mobs, then you can actually get them down very quickly. You can see even that one was pretty fast, and we didn't have a ton of enemies around the Rift Guardian. But if you can get Rift Guardians surrounded by just like a pack of stuff, then it's actually really good, because you'll be able to get them down with 2-3 condemns from all the extra strikes that come out of it. I'm not sure why I'm continuing to run this. Alright, now I finally zoned out of there. So let me go ahead and get the skills up on the screen for you while that video continues to go. I know it's a little small, but I'm just going to use it to explain kind of some of the skills while you can still see some action going, and then I'll pop into the actual game and show you guys a little bit further detail. So you can see that the primary skill is going to be Slash with Zeal. That's no different from what we used to do with Condemn, and that's really just there to proc Focus and Restraint. We're using the Focus and Restraint rings now because we have the cube, and back in the day we didn't have the cube, so it meant you had to give up some pretty good toughness in a Unity or something like that. Obviously now we have ways around that to begin with, because we don't even need the toughness anymore with the gold wrap. So just having Slash there procs Focus and Restraint. Moving right along, we have Condemn Unleashed, obviously your main damage source. The whole build is built around being able to spam that without fail, so never running out of wrath, making sure to just always be able to go, kill everything as fast as possible. Steed Charge Endurance is there to move us along. Obviously whenever there are packs of stuff that aren't going to be on your screen right away, you're gonna have to clear some distances, so you use the Steed Charge just to get through some of those emptier screens. Sometimes you run into them, sometimes you have to backtrack, so it goes. Laws of Valor with critical. Now previously you actually had to use Unstoppable Force to make sure that your wrath never ran out, even through all the different reductions and being able to do a couple of different things for your wrath. You still needed Unstoppable Force, but now we can get Laws of Valor with critical in there for even more damage output, which is going to make your T10 runs even faster. And with that, one of the things that we're using to combat that wrath issue is actually using Embodiment of Power for Akarat's champion. Normally you'd be using Prophet, and of course that's a really tanky rune, but again, remember that gold is our main source of defense. So we're actually using the Embodiment of Power, which is going to return Wrath to our Crusader as long as we're in Akarat's champion, which we have 100% uptime with this build. So we are always regenerating Wrath very quickly, even when we're not attacking, even when we're not provoking. So that just really helps to smooth the issues out. And last but not least, for our active skills, we have Provoke with Too Scared to Run. I like Too Scared to Run just because it slows the mobs down a little bit, just in case some of them like to run away from you, and it sucks to track things down. So if they're moving kind of slow, then they might still be in the range of some of your AoEs that you're getting off on Condemns on other mobs. Your 4 passives are going to be Heavenly Strength, of course. Blade of Prophecy is a two-handed sword, so you're going with Heavenly Strength to be able to wield that and Fighter's Wrath. Then you have Indestructible, which again I mentioned is there for hardcore, because you can get into some rifts where you don't have the chance to pick up any gold to activate that gold wrap defensive bonus for you. And some stuff will, because you're running such little defense, some stuff will just legit one-shot you, or 2 to 3 shot you, depending on where your stuff is at. So Indestructible is there. It's nice just to die but not really die. Holy Cause, just for the damage amplification, and it's also holy, so is the Condemn and the Condemn rune that we're using, so you get a little bit of healing there, but for the most part you are not going to take any damage, so the healing is kind of moot. And then last but not least, Finery. Again, Crusaders use tons of gems. Finery is amazing because it'll scale off of your augments too. Like, none of my gear is augmented here at all, and so we don't have any of the extra strength, but when we start to put more strength on, Finery is just going to boost it up even more so. So it's a really, really strong passive. Highly recommend it whenever you can fit it into your build. It'll also synergize with your Paragons beyond 800 as well too, because you'll just be pumping those into your main stat more often than not. So just more strength on top of more strength. Alright, so you've seen the build kind of in action. These aren't even some of the fastest rifts. Like, if you get some of those really open map rifts, you can kind of pull the whole entire map and just kill stuff super quickly. So it's really fast. I highly recommend trying it out. Definitely, I think one of the fastest Condemn farming builds, so just not Condemn, but also just one of the fastest farming builds for Crusaders in general. And then we'll pop in here now into the actual game, and now you can see, let me actually pull it up on my screen, that we're in the game. Again, I showed you the skills before, so those are the ones that we're rocking with. If you want to look at the Paragon, pretty much you want to cap out your movement speed, make sure that's up to 25%. So if you have movement speed on your boots, which I do, I have 12%, then you just want to make sure you get that other 13% on your movement speed Paragon, and then the rest in the strength, just dump it in there. Offense, I would prioritize going with cooldown reduction first, and then you can amp up your damage stats here, so more crit hit chance, more crit hit damage. Attack speed isn't as useful as it used to be. Before you needed it to really smooth out your wrath, but now that we're really just using our generator just to proc that focus and restraint, we don't really need a lot of attack speed, and attack speed doesn't help you cast Condemn any faster. It's on its own global cooldown, so you just kind of Condemn and then it does its thing, and then you can Condemn again. So you get into a nice rhythm with it actually, which is kind of one of the fun parts of playing the build, as it's a very rhythmic build. Defense, you usually start with resist all, then you can go into armor and life regen and life percent. Again, it doesn't super matter for this build because we're just running gold wrap, so that is our defense. And then here, definitely prioritize area damage. Resource cost maybe first, but gold fine. If you're really hurting for gold, then I would prioritize gold fine because it gets multiplied. So that actually adds a lot more than just 50%. But resource cost reduction is also important, just so you can make sure you're never running out of wrath and being able to spam it out as much as possible. And then life on hit, again, defense matters, but not that much. So let's go over the actual gear here. It's the Akan's 6-piece set, of course. So you want, obviously you want as many pieces ancient as possible. We got the boots, and here's kind of the priority statting that I use. Strength of it, all res, movement speed. On your pants are pretty standard. Strength of it, all res, and sockets. Your chest, strength of it, and I have damage reduction from elites. Here, if you really want to go like full YOLO and you don't care about those moments when you're kind of weak without the gold, you can go for a more condemned damage on your chest. That's perfectly fine. On your gloves, these are pretty much like exactly what you want to see. Strength, critical hit damage, critical hit chance, and then cooldown reduction. Also on your secondaries too, just to amp up the gold, you should look for gold fine as well too. That's gonna help. I think I have it on all the pieces I've shown so far, except for this chest. This chest is just a really nice defensive piece. On your shoulders, we have strength of it, all res, and cooldown reduction. Again, if you want to go like super YOLO, you can just go, instead of all res, go with condemn damage, and then just go strength of it, condemn damage. On your helm, strength of it, critical hit chance, and a socket. And those are your Akan's pieces. And then the bread and butter for condemning, of course, you would like to get an Ancient Blade of Prophecy. Ideally here, you're looking for one with a high cooldown reduction to help you meet that CDR requirement. You need to be at about 56%. You can get away with a little bit less, like 55%, somewhere in a high 55.xx%. 56 is golden. That'll give you Akarats with next to no overlap or like wasted time. So it's just going to be, as soon as it's coming down, it's back up. And you'll be able to transform right back into it. You won't actually leave Akarat's champion. So that's important. On your shield, and I should also mention that they added some affixes, and this is kind of what's buffing up the damage of Condemn to go into T10 and kill as quickly as it is. They added an affix here on the Blade of Prophecy for increased Condemn damage. And you can go from 75 to 100%. So you can see this is kind of like a middle of the road roll on this one. But again, it's important to also look at your CDR that you're getting from your Blade of Prophecy as well too, and of course just the damage numbers in general. But those are the stats that you ideally want. You just want high versions of them. On your Fighter's Wrath, this is a pretty ideal shield as well too, in terms of rolls. Strength of it, critical hit chance, cooldown reduction maxed out, and then condemn damage, and this can roll way high, 150 to 200%. So this kind of, again, another middle of the road roll. You definitely want to get up there if you can, but again, the stats are going to kind of be the priority here, so you want to make sure you can get that CDR, that critical hit chance. Make sure you can really bust out the damage. Your 2 rings, we're going with Focus, and then one of them you have to roll cooldown reduction on in order to use a gold wrap, because otherwise we'd be using a Vigilante belt. So you got to sacrifice one of your damage stats here in order to get a cooldown reduction roll. I mean, ideally what you would want would be like crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and then cooldown reduction. But again, strength, like I was mentioning, is important just because it gets multiplied through that percentage that you get from Finery. And then your restraint as well. This is a really, really awesome one. And it's just pure damage, strength, crit hit damage, crit hit chance. Your Amulet, probably want to make a Hellfire. If it gives you a passive, I think ideally you would want the passive, one of the 4 that we mentioned before, or Lord Commander, just because you would get less downtime on your horse, so it would reduce the cooldown reduction, or sorry, it would reduce the cooldown on your horse, and then you'd be able to use it a bit more often throughout the Rift, and that would just speed up some of your clearance time between those dead areas. But Long Arm of the Law is actually pretty nice too, just because you'll have a lot more uptime on your Law, and since we're spamming out critical to get more critical hit damage, then that actually boosts it up pretty nicely. So then that goes up to 560%, and it's kind of there almost all the time. Your bracers or Zekian arm guards are really good, because whenever you see like a door, a barrel, any sort of destructible, you should just condemn it, because you'll get a nice speed boost. Before we used to have we used to have a Wreath of Lightning in the build, and Wreath of Lightning goes off all the time on Condemn, because Condemn has a really high proc chance. And so we would just be spamming out those lightnings, and the little lightning things would seek out breakables, so they would automatically pretty much always be proccing your Warzekian arm guards. We took it out just to get more damage with our legendary gems. Here we're using Bane of the Powerful, Bane of the Trapped, and then Boon of the Hoarder. Potentially, if you don't need Bane of the Powerful, say your character gets powerful enough with augments and more Paragon and things like that, then maybe you take out Bane of the Powerful and switch Wreath of Lightning back in just for the movement speed bonus. But at least for now, this is good just to help you kill those elites even faster and just put out more damage on the white mobs as well, since if you get this ranked up high enough, you pretty much never have downtime on it because you're moving so fast through the Rift anyway. And that's it for gear. You can see some of the stats here. I'll slowly scroll through. And then our cube. So I guess I can actually just go to the cube since it looks a little prettier. Here in the cube we have the Furnace, and that's just for more elite damage, also helps you against the Rift Guardian. We have the Leoric's Crown, which is super important to meet that CDR standard that we were talking about before, that 56%. It's going to double the effect of that diamond that we have in the helm. And then here we have the Avarice Band, and that's what's helping us get all that gold swept up throughout the Rift. It actually gives you a bonus so that your pickup radius will increase for about 10 seconds as you pick up gold, and you're always picking up gold, so you're always refreshing this. And it can stack up to 30 times, so you can be throughout the Rift most times with 30 yards of pickup radius. And that's also really good because when you kill the elites, you sweep up the globes from them instantly, so you don't have to do any backtracking really. It helps you continue to move through the Rift very quickly. And that is pretty much the build in a nutshell. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I hope you get out there and try it out for yourselves. Definitely feel free to leave me some feedback in the comments if you think there's ways to improve it or make it better, or if you just used it and loved it. If you really like the build, you should definitely give it a thumbs up. Give this video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe to the channel for more Crusader stuff coming all throughout Season 5. And I will be seeing you around. I stream over on twitch.tv/Leviathan111. Definitely check that out. And good luck to everyone out there for Season 5. Take care.